So how do you know your game's failing? And a bonus, how do you know your studio's failing? So this kind of came up when people were talking about preparing your game for living on past your studio and how we made these choices well before any of this recent stuff. Because it just doesn't happen overnight. Your failure isn't instantaneous. So let me just kind of go through the time frame so you can have some understanding. And maybe it'll help somebody else who's struggling with this as well. So first, be transparent to everybody who you work with and let them know where you are. And I'm going to start with the one time I wasn't transparent for about 2 days, and then I talked with everybody. And that was the day we launched. So we were going to launch in December, but we ended up launching in January because Microsoft had Halo launching, and we were working with Microsoft because we ran Game Pass, and they're like, can you launch in January instead? And they were good partners with us. But we had a math formula that with this size studio and this many people, we can go this long before we're going to run out of money. Game Pass will give us some money after the launch date on Game Pass. So if we launch on Game Pass this date, we have the money here, we'll be fine. The day we launch on Game Pass and Steam, I look at the numbers and I send an email to the board that we need to make drastic changes to the studio and cut a lot of the staff. The reason for that was poor sales on Steam. Number one reason for refund was didn't know I had it on Game Pass. We see this giant spike in Game Pass numbers, which is cool, and Microsoft gives you money for having a bunch of players, and that was nice extra stuff, but it didn't go the way we thought it would. We thought we'd have solid numbers on Steam, and we could grow those Steam numbers and have the Game Pass players always be able to find the Game Pass players. The other problem is we didn't anticipate xCloud, and xCloud meant players weren't, like, if you buy the game and you take it home and you have the physical disc, you're going to stick with that game for a little bit to see if you can, it doesn't hit on you, but you're going to play it for a little bit. If you download it, if on xCloud you don't like it in 10 seconds, you're out. So we needed to make changes to fix that. So we needed to address that, but I wanted to go down smaller in size so that we could be more nimble and more actual change things. So when you have a team, you have like kind of this machines going this way, and it's hard to really be agile with 20 people even. And so they call me down like, no, investors will take care of this in June. We'll get you more money. Don't worry. You're overreacting. I think people often think because I am a wild card kind of person that I also don't do the math and have a good sense of this until you work with me. Then you realize that you can show me projections and I can tell you exactly when you'll run out of money because that math is inherent in my head. Okay, but so we're hitting there. And we're making the changes, and we turn that Game Pass number around. There's a lot of players playing. There are a lot of players playing our game. And I know people got really mad at me because they're like, oh, we can look at SteamDB. Our players were 99% on Xbox, which is why I feel bad that we haven't gone to 1.0. But okay, so hang on. We're trucking along. And we're gonna have a free weekend. And this free weekend, will be good. And hey, that June's coming around. Investors, and they're like, the economy tanked, destruction, mayhem. Right, this is all. I can't even tell you when COVID happened. Did it happen in the 1830s? Maybe, I don't know. But so there's no investor money coming. We do the free weekend. We're using a third-party matchmaking service that there's a bug. So we'd already gotten off of servers instantly because I'm like, yeah, that ain't gonna work. We can't afford that. We need to do peer-to-peer, but we're using this third party to help us with the peer-to-peer. They have a bug. If you've never installed the game, you won't be able to match into other players in the first time you start the game. So what do you think a lot of free weekend players do? We have players they can match into, but no, they don't, because that bug. That killed us. Right, and the no funding. And so I'm out reaching out to publishers of, hey, do you want to pick this up like at a steal? And I'm talking to other people about other projects and whatever, and just trying. I'm hustling like all summer. And it's summer because it sucks. No one's responding, but I'm trying to do everything I can. And I'm honest with everybody. October 1st is gonna be this ugly date. If you want to find a job before October 1st, congrats. You should. I have no hard feelings. You're not letting the team down. And actually had somebody who I used to work with come help us with one of this. That's why you're nice to people, because you get really good people doing really cool things. And we kind of this little game jam idea of what we're going to go do and do this. And like they're doing that. I'm trying to just get the game some kind of funding. I land what I think is a good thing. And this publisher's like, we're going to totally fund a third-party project with you. You're going to totally new IP. It's going to be awesome. We'll do 1 year exploration. That'll be like millions of dollars. Hey, let's not do it in September. Let's do that in December. I'm like, I need the money now. So, okay, we get a little bit of money, but it was clear that, A, the game wasn't taking off. We weren't being able to make payroll. Hey, this bad days. We're going to have some layoffs. So that's like first round of big layoffs. Some people had left. And again, hey, man, if you could find a job, I was like, awesome, I support you. And so then we get a note from a very nice person at a rather large company that just said, stop spending money on this project. And that company shut down that entire third-party project. And every single third-party project, they left a lot of people in a lurch. This was the beginning of the really bad times. It could be on the beginning of a lot of things, of like Game Pass totally messing up your numbers, and then this, right? So, okay. So the people who were connected with that was their last hope. We said goodbye to, we got down to the really, really, really small team. So we're starting that January, and it is a really small team, right? And I'll tell you what, the next year that I work with this really small team is the best game development experience I've had. It was the most fun because you trusted everybody. Everybody worked super hard. We got a bunch of stuff done, and we were all super focused and on the same page. It was great. Finally back to nimble. But step one, let's get off the third-party matchmaking back end, because what if the game doesn't, like, what if the company entirely goes under and we have to close down? I want the game to exist, and I want the game to get out of early access on Steam. Those are two things, right? Well, before, like, this all takes a lot of time to do, right? And it's a really hard day that you have to look and stare at yourself and go, should we make the guns better? Should we add another creature? It's missing this. We know we should do this. We should do this. It's not going to matter. It's not going to matter. This thing that you worked on and cared about for years isn't going to take off and explode. It's not going to matter. And what you need to do is prepare for that not mattering. So I actually took money out of my own pocket and I funded the studio for that rest of that year so that we can do those two things. We launch. While we're doing that, I am still hustling and I'm still trying to get people on board to do something else. And we have 2 different projects lined up. And then Embracer goes under. Ends up they were both affected by that, and both of those went under. Like, maybe I'm just bad at it, right? I'll admit to that. But yeah, I also realize I really don't like the business side of anything, and I just want to make games. But good thing is we figure out this way to totally do the back end cross-play, where you don't have to log in, you don't have to create an account, anything. But you get cross-play. An engineer is a freaking genius. We get the game, we ship it, not big numbers. Say, hey, this is, I'll help people find jobs and do payroll and insurance through the new year, into the new year. That was it. Like, there's this point where you have to admit that you have a stink on you, and it's not going to come out of that. Now, the game, we've had somebody from the community say, hey, I want to take over and keep developing on it. And I'm very clear, there's no money in here. There's no sales. Even like the community updates, you have to update regularly. It can't be like once a quarter update. It's got to be like every 2 weeks update. And we're almost there, but it's also summer, so it's not really in summer. Anyone launching in summer, God bless you. But those numbers are just all down. And so we're doing that, right? And so the community's updating, and and for our community and for us playing it, at this point now, it's like this boutique game that it's just people in our Discord. And actually, I found every so often now run into games, and there are people still playing. God bless them. But, we're going to be approaching on a 2-year-old game that still gets updates. And if we did go under, it'd still keep working. And it is what it is. And I love that people, will give me feedback on it and talk about big, giant changes, but those aren't going to come, right? And really, the community's reached out to people in the community and say, hey, what do you want to see and what changes you're going to do? And that's what they're going to work on. And that's what they want to do. And it's fun for them and they get to play with it. Now open it up. And if you're an engineer and want to play on a shipped game and make changes and see what happens, let me know. Like, we give people access to Perforce and Discord and build servers, right? Like, we're willing to do that experiment, but like, none of it's easy. And it was the hardest part was just saying, yeah, hey, you failed, man. Game development, so much fun. So this is a follow up to the previous video. If you want to watch about me talking about the pendulum of failure, the doom of failure, the time of failure, or I don't know, time to failure. Quick for me. But yeah, so right now, like the game, the Anacrusis, I want to, and this is me doing work, get it the finished version, which is the 1.0 version, up on Xbox, so that we're good to go there. And I feel like we completed that, and that'll then restore crossplay. Crossplay is kind of now broken because the Steam version is different than the Xbox version, and that's just because the Steam version is still getting updated with the community updates, and so at some point that'll slow down, and then we'll pair them up, and so I have to do that work for that. That's fine. Again, I always feel that responsibility of, hey, if somebody bought my game, I owe that to them. So we'll do that. That's fine. And then otherwise, I'm working on a prototype that I was going to originally share earlier this year, but I talked to enough people, I just didn't have the energy to go out and do it. And so I'm trying to spend a lot of time family stuff, doing a lot of stuff around the house, spend a lot of time with the cats. But then the prototype will eventually be the thing that I share out and either decide just to kind of finish out on my own or share it out with the idea of getting funding and building up a small little group again and going from there. Because, like our lawyers are like, hey, just don't pay us and just close the company and walk away. And I'm like, And then like our investors, I mean, people give us money to try, and sure, they like the idea would be like, oh, we should close down and then restart, and then we have a clean bill and none of their entanglements. But that, come on, they made a bet on me. They were nice. I like them. Like I like our investors. I like the people we talked with. I like the people we play our games. So, I'm left in this that I have the ability to just keep going without worrying about income, that I could pay for the stuff that needs to get paid, like my health care and payroll and those kind of things. And we'll just keep going on like that, right? I don't want to go, some people were really nice and asked about like if I wanted to come work with them on projects or go do up a fairly large project. And I was like, no, I want to make games, and I got to ship a game quickly, and I want to just keep shipping games. And I almost wonder if I should build them in a way that I ship them, and then just whoever, if anybody wants to take them from there, they can or not, which is kind of arrogant to think that somebody would. But we have some interest in that, in the community learning things, right? And then I would have to just set up I would have to get off Perforce because of the cost of Perforce. Instead, do project dependent, where you get like 20 for free on GitHub or GitLab. Like, right, there's ways to do it and set it up, but there'd be some work I would have to stop and do on that, or get somebody to help me with that. But like right now, I've had people try to volunteer and say they'll come just work for free, and I don't think that's a fair trade. Like the community stuff's the community stuff, and that's a delineation that I can understand. But just like free volunteer for stuff that I have in my head that I think is going to monetize in the future, for them to get experience, is like, that's a bad experience. They should just go on their own and do their own thing. It has just as much luck and chance, and they could profit from it. So I try to be honest about that as well. And that's really nice. Like, it's really nice. Like, there are people I want to work with now, right? Besides just that group, like I said, that was really good. But it's just hard. It's hard right now. Everybody's got an idea of what works, and there's some really like, hey, we can just try this and do this, and just do a bunch of little games. But like a bunch of little games is a lot of work to get the attention to the game. And so some of it is why I originally started doing these videos, is to talk about this, but also to grow community so that when I launch the next game, it's not into a vacuum, but into a community of people who already want to play it or give me feedback about it. And it's got a little something, I don't know. I've walked through kind of like my desire to go work on a big AAA game is zero. My desire to go back into the office 5 days a week, or God, let's be honest, 6 days a week, and grind out on something is zero. My desire to express myself in how I think about game design and story is high. So how do I do that? right? And what's the quickest way to do that, and what's the easiest way to do that? And some of that is just a big learning process and learning a lot of Unreal stuff so that I can feel confident in that. I am a bad animator and bad at art, and so maybe I'll pay somebody to help with that. I don't know. So it's somewhere like in that. But yeah, it's not what it was, and I'm kind of fine with it. I'm not ready to retire yet, but I approach work and what I'm doing in a different way, and all of this is an extension of that. I don't know. We'll see.